So, back on the channel to preview One Fight Night 19, and I thought it was probably about time that we get someone else's voice on this channel instead of me just sitting in this room and ranting. So as I'm sure many of you will know, that if you're going to get your One Championship news from somebody, might as well go to my guest, Mr. Nic Atkin. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure a lot of people who are checking out this video will already be familiar with your work, so I don't have to do like a whole big intro. But of course, now currently doing some stuff with Sportskeeda, which is also where I cover one. So yeah, felt like the obvious move. Like I said, if you're going to get somebody, I might as well get the guy that I go to for my one news. So makes sense.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm happy to join the team with you at Sportskeeda. And the guys there have been nothing but great to me ever since we started talking. And it came together very quickly after I left SCMP. And yeah, I'm happy to have this great platform with them. And I'm more than happy to join your show, mate, and talk about One Fight Night 19. I've always dreamed of doing these, being the guest on the show rather than the host. No one's ever asked me before, so I'm honored. Yeah, and anytime you want to do it, yeah, let's do it for sure.
Yeah, well, perfect, man. Because like I can offer. I try and give people the reasons to watch a card for maybe if they're not super familiar, they don't follow one super closely. But like I said, I get a lot of my information straight from you. That then I just relay to other people. So like I said, get the source himself on to go straight into it, because obviously being around these events and being up close and personal with these fighters, I imagine will change your outlook on some of these things that I wouldn't have. I think that's a good place to start with the main event with Jonathan Haggerty and Felipe Lobo, because obviously
Yeah,
from the UK fan base, Haggerty is obviously the main man, right? He was like the graphic when Sky Sports announced the One Championship deal and stuff. Like, being around Haggerty over the last year or so, I mean, I know that most people will just point to the fact that he went up at bantamweight, but have you seen any other like major changes that have seen him become this? He suddenly is one of the poster boys for One, and I know that he was always, really highly regarded, and obviously had those classics with Rodtang and stuff. But it really feels like suddenly he's in like a whole new limelight of his own.
yeah. I think the move to bantamweight was key. He just couldn't make flyweight anymore, and there were I think two fights back to back in 2022 where he didn't make weight there, and it was just getting a bit ridiculous, including in the flyweight Grand Prix. And then even when he went to bantamweight, I think he missed weight for his first fight with Kuzmin. I was there in Singapore, and I thought, oh, come on, Jonathan. Yeah, but a lot of people were missing the hydration tests at the beginning of the Prime Video era, when One kind of started making the weigh-ins public on their YouTube channel. And when I was with SCMP, we were streaming it as well, and I was putting it on my Twitter. I was there at the weigh-ins a lot of the time. So I think they were a bit more stringent with the rules on that, and it caught a lot of fighters off guard. And a few people were still figuring out the hydration process, but he's had no problems since the Nongo fight in April last year, I want to say. So yeah, it suits him, having a bigger frame, I think, and he's got with the right nutritionists and condition nutrition. Shout out to Peter Miller, who was in Tokyo and did Superleg and Takeru for the main event. If you want to make weight, guys, go follow them, Condition Nutrition, and sign up. But yeah, Haggerty, the whole thing suits him. He can be a bit bigger. He's always been taller, rangier than the guys at flyweight, and I think it still sort of holds true in bantamweight. Especially against Nongo. But we're coming up now with Felipe Lobo, and I think the size difference isn't so stark. And obviously Nico Carrillo is waiting in the wings to fight the winner, I would imagine. So I think Haggerty's reign really starts now against, we saw with Kuzmin, he actually struggled. I think that was a majority decision. A lot of people, myself included, were wondering whether Kuzmin might have won that fight. And I'm happy to see Kuzmin back in Qatar against Nongo. That's going to be a huge fight. And I think that's another potential title fight. The winner could face Haggerty. So Haggerty, yeah, I'm not sure there's any magic secret that's come through. He's older, wiser, got a good team around him. I think he's just grown into that body now. It suits him, not he was dehydrating himself so badly to get down to flyweight. He ended up in hospital in Singapore, and you just that's not the good way to prepare for fight week. And he's doing the right way now, and he's got all his power, explosiveness, and yeah, Lobo's going to be in for a tough night, I think, or a tough morning, shall we say, at Lumpini Stadium.
Yeah, you mentioned Nico Carrillo then. Like, again, from the UK perspective, of course, the fight that everyone, is waiting to see. And I always worry about things like this in combat sports. I think back to, a few months ago when we had the whole Deontay Wilder scenario when him and AJ shared a card and you're like, oh, it's finally going to happen. And then Wilder doesn't win his fight. In the I thought the Carrillo fight would be next for Haggerty just because of Felipe Lobo pulling out of the Simapetch rematch, right, at the end of last year. I just assumed that because of Carrillo's performance, he would be up next. But, you would imagine that if Haggerty comes through, that will definitely be the next one because of the bad blood between them. And, it just feels like that's the fight that the division is kind of waiting for and waiting to see. But you mentioned Felipe Lobo there. Like, how big of a threat do you think he is? Because it's hard not to kind of start getting attracted by the Carrillo fight and then having to remember he still has to beat Felipe Lobo before we can start talking about Haggerty versus Carrillo, which, like I said, kind of feels like the one that everyone is excited for in this division right now.
Yeah, I love Felipe Lobo. He's a really nice guy. He trains at Tiger Muay Thai in Phuket with a lot of guys in one, Malakin, Fabricio Andrade, Chingiz, Tagia Khalilov. There's so many guys there. They all support each other. He's, like I say, a lovely guy, very talented. He beat Semapet, I think, on that card in April last year that Haggerty was on. And the reason I think they're giving him this match, there's a couple of reasons. One, it was already kind of on the cards. This was going to be, they were going to do that rematch, him and Semapet in December, I think it was. And the winner of that probably would have got a title shot anyway, because Nico Carrillo was after with Nongo. But there was also that bad blood that happened at the end of Haggerty and Andrade. And that, I don't know if it was scripted, whether Haggerty and Lobo had met backstage and said, well, let's have a little head-to-head. It was very WWE style, wasn't it? And I really like those moments because I think it was different to when Aliverdi Ramazanov climbed in the ring and tried to call his shot, ended up getting himself suspended for 6 months, and with Mehdi, who is his gym owner at Venom. But Lobo did the right thing. He was cornering Andrade anyway, like I said, teammates, and Haggerty came over, shook hands with all the corners, John Hutchinson, John Boy, Andrade's coach, and then the moment was there, the magic was there, and they were actually, that fight was offered to Haggerty and Lobo for December for the main event of Fight Night, I want to say 17.
Yeah.
I mixed these numbers up. That was because they needed the main event. Superbon and Tawanche fell through again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before they settled on Alex Roberts and Roman Kriklia for the inaugural heavyweight Muay Thai belt, it was Haggerty and Lobo was the plan, and Lobo accepted, but Haggerty had a leg issue stemming from that Andrade fight still, and I think he'd agreed to go to Australia and do some seminars, which is a lucrative thing for Muay Thai fighters. And I know you can earn a lot going to places like Australia, Canada, wherever. You see a lot of these one fighters doing it now. Rod Tang, Stamp, Superlex done it. Make that money while you can. So I think then the plan switched to, right, Haggerty. We will do Haggerty against Hiroki Akimoto in Tokyo for the bantamweight kickboxing belt. But Haggerty still wasn't 100%. And I think he saw this Lobo match as, I'm speculating here. I think Haggerty thinks this is a winnable fight. And I think one thinks it's a winnable fight for Haggerty. And like you alluded to, he is the poster boy of one in the UK and on Sky Sports. And you don't put your poster boy up against a a monster in Nico Carrillo for his first Muay Thai title defense. You get him a win. This is promoter 101. You don't kill the golden goose. And I think Lobo's a very tough opponent, but I see Haggerty beating him. And I see him going on to face Carrillo possibly later in the year. But Carrillo has just had hand surgery. So that one could be delayed. And you never know, a new challenger may arise in the meantime. Like we were saying, you've got Kuzmin and Nongo. And I think if Nongo was to get a win there, they may be tempted to do Nongo versus Haggerty rematch and continue to build Haggerty as this star in the UK.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned potential challengers arriving, and obviously, at the moment, the fight before the main event will be Simon Petch, who's going to be taking on Mohamed Yunus Rava, who, of course, he had that controversial fight with towards the end of last year. One of the things that struck me about the rest of this card is that it does feel very things that were either happened or fighters that were involved in some of those like last couple of cards right towards the end of the year, which isn't always the case. I think some of the fights that were on One Fight Night 18 were a bit like, oh, I haven't seen that guy in a while, or just things that haven't been building. And then this card feels so, if you watched One Fight Night 16 or 17, you're going to know where a lot of these people are at and things like that, because obviously this is a straight rematch from One Fight Night 17, which was the final Fight Night card of last year. So it just feels like it's a very quick, not necessarily turnaround in a bad way for a lot of these guys. It's a good thing that they're active, but it does feel very much like this card is a result of some of those last few cards from last year. And like I said, this fight is the perfect example of that, being a rematch like 2 months on from that first fight happening.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I want to apologize. My setup isn't my usual. I am just holding my phone. I've got the AirPods, and camera's a bit shaky. Sorry, I'm in the UK. I'm not in Hong Kong, but I think to your question, there's been a small ecosystem building in Lupini with one. Not just the Friday fights. I mean, the fight nights have been building this small ecosystem of rosters and challengers, and storylines are building and developing there, and a lot of MMA fighters aren't really getting a look in. They've been sat on the sidelines for over a year, and you see the people frustrated, voicing their frustration. Some people are leaving now, but it's a good time to be, a Muay Thai fighter in one championship based in Thailand or the region, or to just be one of the favorites. Yeah, like Haggerty is. He's a big favorite of Chatri, and these jiu-jitsu guys are Cade, Ty, Mikey. They're all getting matches. They're all getting bonuses. I think what you're seeing, is just this natural knock-on effect of one show sets up the next. It's kind of got a bit of continuity, which I like actually personally as a fan. I think I will be honest, December and January's fight night shows were not great on paper. They delivered in some aspects. The December one was actually a great show. On paper, it looked weak. January was weak on paper, and I don't think it delivered. It didn't have a main event really for me. I think this show we're gonna have. Yeah, we got a great main event. We've got some names on the card, and I think after Tokyo as well, that was a spectacular show, and we know that Qatar is quite stacked. I think once getting back in the groove, it was a bit of a. I think things slowed down because they stacked that December 22 show at Lumpini, and there was a bit of a lull after that with January. But I think we're rolling now, and I'm excited for the show. I'm fingers crossed. I think I'll be there, so I look forward to it.
One of the things, because I agree with your analysis of both One Fight Night 17 and 18. One of the things that I was, I'd say probably the most positive about with that 18 card was that I think there was at least like 4 or 5 MMA fights on the card, and it was like, okay, this really feels like we're setting things up now. Things are getting into motion. This is the fresh start. But obviously, this card so far has only got the one MMA contest on it with Daniel Williams and Lito Adiwang. So it does feel, like I said, well, like you said as well, the kind of that ecosystem still feels very much like it is taking a big part of these fight night events. And like you said, I agree. I think the continuity is great because if people tuned in to One Fight Night 17 and then they're like, oh, there's that rematch on there's a couple of the other guys that are going to be fighting on this card, so it helps, you know, build that familiarity, I suppose, that you get if you're tuning in. But I was a little bit surprised to see that there was the only one MMA contest, because like I said, I was kind of optimistic maybe that after One Fight Night 18 that would pick up a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, I think you see the MMA fighters who were on that card. Let's run through them. You know, in January it was Shamil Gasanov, based in Phuket, right? Ohotek, Korea. Kwon Korea. Artem Belek is based in Phuket. I'm trying to remember who else was on it. Enkorgel, EO, based in Mongolia. Who did Kwon beat? My mind is skipping here. Shine in Mongolia. So I think that the MMA guys on the card, based in the region and probably on lower purses than your Jared Brookses, your Demetrius Johnsons, your guys in America and those kind of Western places, or even Australia, guys like Adriano Moraes in Florida, all those US-based guys. I think are on larger purses, and there's budgets with these fight night shows. It's a much smaller stadium at Lumpini, and it's compared to when you go to a Singapore or like you saw with Tokyo and Qatar, where they have these bigger stadiums, bigger budgets, obviously. So I think when it comes to MMA at Lumpini Stadium, you're very rarely going to see. I don't think Demetrius Johnson is fighting there. You might see Anatoly Malikin, but again, based in the region, and I'm not sure what his purse is. He tends to get bonuses, but I think they save. Malikin's in Qatar next time, so I think he fought on one of those big 4 Lumpini cards, which again budget will be bigger for. But Muay Thai is we can't overlook the fact that any show at Lumpini Stadium is going to be Muay Thai heavy or kickboxing, probably obviously more Muay Thai, but just because that's what the crowd is there to see and they're going to respond to. And at the end of the day, they want to fill out that arena, that stadium. You want to have a loud crowd. You're probably not going to put on a lot of MMA, and I don't think it went down as well in January as you know the Muay Thai did. So I think it makes sense to stack these. What I want to see personally is just let's get away from having fight night at Bangkok Lumpini Stadium every month. It's kind of watered it down enough now. It is nice to have this ecosystem, like we say, but I'm okay with it if we have one fight night there, but also we have a big numbered event every month. But I'm not sure it's gonna be that way. I don't think there's anything scheduled beyond Qatar in terms of numbered events. We do have the 2 fight nights in the US in September and November, so I think one is still trying to feel their way through that process. But I think really what you need is the dream model for them. Friday fights are in Lumpini, and you can still have your 4 10-pole things, and then you have your fight night cards in the US, in the region that it's meant to be prime time, so it's not in the morning. And then you have a numbered event, and I'm talking every month. You have one fight night in the US, one numbered event in regional areas like Asia or Middle East or Europe. So that for me is a great blueprint. I hope they will work towards for 2025. I don't think it'll be this year, but on the other hand, I don't think they'll be too quick to have more than 4 events in the US a year, just because if you can't stack those US cards, are you going to draw the big gates? If you put on what you did in January in the US, it's going to flop, I think. No one's coming to pay tickets for that, with all the goodwill in the world. I love a lot of those guys on that card, but you're not going to sell out the Ball Arena or State Farm Arena with that card. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing. It's good that these guys get fights, and yeah, but I'm just not a huge fan of the morning shows in Asia, especially because I have to wake up at 5 a.m. What's it like for you here? Is it 1 a.m. or something?
What for which cards? For the fight night cards?
Yeah, fight nights. Are
Yeah,
they in
but
the
I
afternoon?
no, it's like 1 a.m., which I
Okay.
mean, is pretty standard at this point because of the UFC and everything being at that time.
You're used to it.
I do really miss the times where it wasn't that. It was lovely having fights on for us in like the afternoon. That's ideal, right? Because you get so
Mm,
little of them when with the UFC and coming to Europe and stuff like that. So when you would get a big
yes.
one championship card, and it would start at like 3 p.m. or something. They'd be like,
Brilliant.
oh,
Yeah.
this is fantastic. But
I just love
oh,
when I love waking up, not being in a rush, getting
yeah,
myself get a bit of work done in the morning, whatever, do some prep for the show, get some food in, head to the arena late afternoon, get there early. That's what it was like in Tokyo. But these
yeah,
fight nights in the morning, oh my days, you're up at 5 a.m. You're trying to get to Lumpini for 6:30 or something, having probably been at the stadium until 11:30 or 12 the night before for the Friday fights, and getting home at 1 a.m. to the hotel. It's pretty tough. Hats off to all the one staff and especially the officials. The referees like Olivier and Herb does it, and the judges and all those guys, the referees. Yeah, they have such a short turnaround. Really respect them. But I feel for you, man. Yeah, the 1 a.m. I mean, that's it with Sky Sports, right? You're promoting. Oh, we got Liam Nolan on the card. We got Jonathan Haggerty, but it's tough to get fans to tune in at that time. I think
yeah.
they need to have some sort of, for me, primetime UK event. And I thought Qatar might have a bit more UK flavor to it because it's probably in a nicer time zone for the UK, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like perfect time zone for the UK. Like, couldn't be
Yeah, I
better.
thought, why don't you throw Haggerty on there and Liam Harrison and Liam Nolan big it up on
Yeah,
Sky Sports? I mean, I know the Qatar. It's quite important, yeah, aspect the Sky Sports deal with Qatar. I think you want to woo Qatar Investment Authority to invest again in one. You brag. You're going to say, "Oh, look, we're on Sky Sports now. We've got Amazon. We got Globo, beIN Sports, big networks around the world." So make a noise about it. I don't understand they want to have regional flavor to that card, but it's not much. Yeah, I mean, you got what Amir Ali Akbari from Iran, which I'm not sure will be the favorite of the crowd anyway in Qatar, and Mehdi Zatou been added to the card. Um, but other than that, yeah, it's just Malakin and Ardiyar. I don't think that's regionally gonna be huge. Pasio Brooks, Stamp, Denise, Tenkai, Tanley, great fights, yeah.
yeah,
And if you want to even brag, like we got 5 title fights, great, yeah. But I would have loved, yeah, just see Liam Harrison on there. I know he's coming back from injury and stuff, and would have loved a Haggerty matchup there. I think just yeah, go big on Sky Sports. As someone from the UK as well, um, imagine if they put on a card that was 8 p.m. You could give it some play. I think that would be really important. But fingers crossed, they still come here. I would. I'm sure you'd love to see it. Maybe the O2 Arena or the Wembley Arena, right?
yeah. I would love it. Of course. I would be really curious to see how it would do because, like you said, even though they're on Sky Sports, it's not the most visible thing unless you're looking for it.
No.
I did wonder whether when this card got announced, like maybe this card will be on at regular time so that it's a good time for the UK audience, and then you can really promote it. I think in fairness, I think there've been a couple of times where I've been watching something on Sky, and they even if it's just like a banner to tell you that it's on that day is like, well, that's something. But like getting people to stay up till 1 a.m. For something they don't know about, I feel like it's like I wondered if the Friday Fight series was going to be on Sky, and I was like, that could be a really good way for
Yeah.
people who are just flicking through channels to be like, oh, what's this? And people have been saying it for years. Muay Thai feels like it should be huge everywhere, but for some reason it just isn't. And I feel like if they had that, people are going to see that and then go, yeah, I'll watch more of that, like for sure. Especially if they're already
Yes.
MMA fans, like that feels
Yeah.
like a huge opportunity that hasn't been realized. But
Well, I'm with you.
you
I
know,
think one made very good progress last year with casual fans and MMA fans in the West. I think the Friday fights being free on YouTube
yeah,
just really built up some steam. And I disagreed with them making that last one a pay-per-view. I thought that was a bad move. But yeah, I think Friday fights, you're right, would be incredible. I had actually spoke to Chatri December, maybe when they announced the Sky Sports thing. I was talking to him, and he told me it's Friday fights as well. So I
mm,
thought it was, and it's news to me, kind of that it's not actually. But I think I had realized it's not on there, and I think that's I think much easier to build a fan base with a weekly show than having these monthly fight nights at a god awful time, 1 a.m. You're not gonna, other than people who are looking for it specifically, who's gonna stumble across it and go, oh, I like this Muay Thai, in 4 ounce gloves, loads of knockouts. You might get a few drunk people coming home from the pub. What is it on your Friday nights, right? Or
yeah, Friday night,
yeah,
yeah. It's not like this is like a minor complaint because I didn't expect it, but it's not on one of the like major Sky Sports channels either.
the boxing
So
channel, right? Yeah,
it's on, I think it's on Sky Sports Mix, which I'll be honest, I
mix.
don't really
Yeah,
know what that channel is for, but I'm not, I don't pay a ton of attention to Sky Sports, so maybe that's on me. But it again is
yeah.
another thing where it feels like you'd have to look for it to find it. I don't think many people get home and go, "I'll have a look at what's on Sky Sports Mix." But
Well, yeah, I think Sky tends to just they play around with their what is it? The names of the channels.
yeah,
They'll change the channel if there's a golf, if the Ryder Cup's on, they'll go, oh, this is Sky Ryder Cup for a week. Um, so yeah, I think, to be honest, it's more just the association with Sky that one wants
yeah.
than. But I think it's a huge opportunity missed. To imagine if you had Friday fights on every Friday. I guess it'd be midday for you. It would start
Yeah,
there or something like
yeah,
that.
it's like a
Yeah,
really good time, especially people working from home and stuff like that. Like I've got multiple friends who have got into one through the Friday Fight series just because
so many friends.
they're
Yeah,
eating. At that time for us in the UK, it's like lunchtime, so they don't have anything to do, and they're like, "Oh, this is on. I'll just stick this on," and then it's become like a fixture of their Friday now.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
every time on that day, that's what they
That what
do.
you just said there is I've heard that from many people myself in
Mm,
the US, UK. They became fans of one through the Friday fights, not through fight nights or numbered events. So this is huge mistake if one and Sky aren't somehow finding a way to do this because 12 o'clock Fridays as well. If you're at work, if you're in the office or you're at home, you're winding down by lunchtime anyway, aren't you? You're getting ready for the weekend. You do your work, you get in at 9, you clear the decks by 12. You're starting to think about that first pint at 5 o'clock. So it's perfect time. And who what a better way to start the weekend with a bunch of knockouts, right? I hope if anyone is watching this or sees it, just let's get the Friday fights on Sky. I think if you did that for a year, you would grow a big fan base enough that you could start, maybe putting it on not Sky Sports Mix. You move it up to Sky Sports 3 or something. And naturally you promote the fight nights through the Friday fights and the numbered events.
Yeah.
If you're just throwing out a random numbered event every month at 1 a.m., it's tough to build a fan base. It's the pay-per-views and the numbered events and the fight nights are. It's like, again, to make a wrestling analogy. I grew up watching wrestling here on Sky, and you'd watch. You would stay up. It was at 1 a.m. as well, but you would get it after school. A watered down version. But the weekly episodic nature of it would build your interest in watching the monthly special, right? And I hope they can maybe fix that. It seems a bit of an oversight. I think Sky are missing out. They would get decent viewership numbers on that. I look at half of the stuff on Sky in the middle of the day. I could turn it on right now. I'm sitting in front of the TV. It's probably a load of shit. Sorry to swear. I know it's not Friday, but yeah, maybe they have what do you call it, like ratings, or they can't put on violence at a certain time of the day. Is it PG enough for daytime TV?
That's true. I hadn't thought of that,
yeah.
but that could be an actual reason. I also completely understand it if you're going to do those big cards and they, like you said, they cost a lot more and they are a lot more stacked. But at 1165, I feel like being on Sky again for the fact that it would have been at a good time as well. Oh no, was that one later as well? The 1165 card. I can't remember when that.
That was started at 5 p.m. in
It was
Japan.
super early.
Yeah.
It was super early here. Yes, well, I say super early, not as early as you have to go to Lumpini, but it was like 8 a.m. start, I think. So
really,
which
it would have been 5 p.m. local time. So, my time zones are all over the place now. But that was, I think, I'd have to. I don't want to play with the phone and check out the time zones, but it was probably less painful for you than a fight night. It would have been.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't want to get up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, but I'd much rather do that than go to bed at 6 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, was it a pay-per-view here? Did you have to pay?
Yeah, just through the one website.
How much did it cost?
30 quid. Which I feel like, we're getting there to where that most pay-per-views cost around that, but like when you consider how big boxing is over here, and most boxing pay-per-views aren't that much. To compare it to the thing about them not being on a good time on Sky Sports, it's like you've really got to be invested in this card and have expectations for it if you're going to pay 30 quid. No one pays 30 quid to watch a card that they're like, oh, that might be cool.
Yeah, I mean, when I grew up, boxing pay-per-views here, wrestling pay-per-views were about 20 quid.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they cost now.
I think that they're going up. They've gone up in recent years. So I would say 30 for like a big boxing card is probably pretty standard. But again, like you said, that's like a regular thing, I think, for the UK, right? You expect if there's a big boxing match, you're gonna pay 20, 30 quid. Like that's kind of just expected at this point.
Yeah, like an Anthony Joshua fight, the Tyson Fury fight, Mayweather back in the day, Pacquiao, Ricky Hatton especially, with 20 quid. And that was, even then, I remember as a teenager or whatever, we'd be like, it's a bit steep. We're going to have to band together and everyone chip in a fiver, go around someone's house. And, so 30 quid for one championship pay-per-view in the UK, I think is very, very steep. And especially for what I think really was a one-fight card, but it was a great fight. And we can get into that later if you want. But I do think my whole feeling towards that is, why not charge £5? And you're going to get way more people paying £5 than if you put people off with that £30 price tag. You're going to lose out on all that. You know, I'm not an accountant or anything, but I think you would have got a lot more pay-per-view buys in the UK and in America if you were between £5 and £10 or dollars. Especially that the card just for me didn't deliver. I thought the MMA fights were bad at the beginning. We didn't get a finish until Gary Tonin, and that was a sub, Martin. And then we had a couple of really good finishes after that. Marat on Sitachai and Nic Atkin, Sexyama was a bit of a freak fight, but still entertaining. And what was the other one I'm thinking of? I can't remember. But
Shinya got a finish, didn't he? Was that the only other one?
Shinya and John, yeah. But again, that was a freak fight, which was put together an hour before. So for me, and then you've got the grappling co-main, and the grappling, I love those boys, but it's not, I'm not paying to see it. Yeah, for me, it was one fight card, but it was one of those, it's like when I watched those boxing pay-per-views as a kid, I'm not paying for the undercard of Hatton v Pacquiao or Hatton v Mayweather. I'm paying for that one fight, and I'm probably not even turning it on until an hour before the show, that main event. So, as long as the main event is good, yeah, I don't mind paying pay-per-view, but yeah, bring it down a bit, guys, if you want. Especially when you can whack on a VPN, right, and just pay for it in Malaysia or somewhere, and I shouldn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it would have been especially I know that 8 a.m. start time is a bit difficult. Maybe like you said, there's something with Sky and not putting fights on at that time, but it does feel like a really good opportunity to sell the Haggerty card as well and be like, wait, well, if you're watching this card in a couple of weeks, the UK poster boy for one is fighting, but we didn't get that. But
not at all. Not at all. Yeah, it's whoever's running this marketing side with Sky. Yeah, I'd be pissed off. I don't see much promotion of it anywhere on social. I don't see any buzz. I'm in the UK now. Let's see. I'm watching. I'm sitting here on this sofa. You can see like it's got my arse dent in there already from the last few days. I'm watching Sky Sports most of the time, and I just kind of enjoy that when I'm in the UK. I haven't seen any adverts yet for it, and we're a week and a half out, something like that, maybe 2 weeks. So let's see, yeah, if any promotion is put into it. But
yeah.
I'm
cautious of time because I don't want to keep you for too long.
No, you go. I have nothing to do. Just whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Go for it. I'm enjoying it. Like I said,
Cool.
I never. It's always me asking the questions.
right.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was also if I'm waffling on. Just
it's totally
interrupt me.
cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your opinion. One of the other fights on this card, you've got Nat Jarunsak taking on Dejan Cardoso in a mixed rules fight, right? And I'm interested to get your thoughts on these fights because initially I thought it might be something we get as kind of a special attraction on the really big cards, but it does feel like maybe we're getting more of them and less kind of. I know that the last one obviously we had was Nikki Hoskin and Sexyama, and that felt like two big names, and so you want them to be on that card. But this card doesn't feel like it necessarily needs it, like it's a particularly big attraction on this card. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on these and how they tend to go down because, like, I think that this format in particular works best with the alternating rounds of Muay Thai and MMA. It feels like if you are gonna do these fights, that's probably the best reason for it. Like I was really confused by Holskin and Akiyama starting with 2 rounds of striking. It's just like that's a really big disadvantage for Akiyama. Like I know that the third round is MMA, but he's got to strike for 2 rounds with Nikki Holskin before he even gets to shoot a takedown. It just felt bizarre.
That was a bad idea for Sexyama to take, and from what I know, I think they wanted to do MMA second round, but Nikki refused and said the only way I'll do it is if we get 2 striking rounds first, because
Right.
he was giving up a lot of weight. So yeah, that didn't really make sense to me. I don't think it didn't serve anyone, because if you're trying to get Sexyama on the card in Japan, you want to give him someone he can beat, and to put him against Niki Holskin in a striking match is bizarre. But anyway, yeah. So this one is this MMA and Muay Thai?
Yeah, like the
Okay, right,
same rules with Rod Tang and DJ, where
right.
one round of each, and then 4 rounds total, and there's no judges, so it just goes to a draw if there's no finish.
Yeah. So I mean, you're in danger of watering it down if you do it for too many times. If you, and especially with with all respect to Wonder Girl and Diane Cardoso, they are not DJ and Rod Tang, and this is not the 10th anniversary of one championship. That fight felt special,
Yeah,
and it was, you had Dana White mocking it a bit, but I think it paid off, and it got a lot of people interested in one. I know people personally who started watching one because of that fight. They were UFC fans before. So this feels to me a bit like a gimmick, and it feels a bit like just trying to get Wonder Girl a fight that she isn't going to lose. Because again, with all respect to her, I love her, but I don't think she is the superstar that one would want her to be in terms of her skill in the ring. She is great, but she's not ever going to win a title in Muay Thai. I think Supergirl, if you're looking at the two sisters, is far more talented, and with the right run, could get to a title shot. She looked like she was gonna before that last fight, and she said she was sick, so who knows? She could come back, but yeah, with Wonder Girl, I feel it's like they're just trying to find something she can do, and because she's very popular, right? That's just the key. She pops good ratings for them, like does really well on social, and I know that anytime I do something with her, it goes really well. So I think they're just trying to get her something, and they don't want to put her in an MMA fight with Cardoso, because Cardoso would just probably beat her quite easily, you know. But yeah, you throw in the Muay Thai, maybe Nat can knock her out in the first round. Who knows? Because I think, but Cardoso's a striker as well. I think she's got a pretty. She had a vicious knockout, if I remember, in one on her debut. I can't remember who it was, but it was someone decent. Maybe you can bring it up on your computer, but it's not like she's just a wrestler or a grappler or anything. So I think she's got hands,
yeah,
which
yeah. I
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. I can't remember who it was either, and then I literally
mm,
looked this up the other day, so I was
yeah,
like, I should know this. Yeah, it was Ayaka Miura that she
yeah,
knocked out.
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
that was it. Who just beat Itsuki and Mengbo back to back, and has fought for the title, right? So
yeah,
yeah, that is someone. Yeah, I think Cardoso is going to win this. And then again, it's like, well, what are you doing? Why are you just beating Wonder Girl? But then it's tough to know what to do with her. Yeah, they gave her that fight, I think, in MMA on Lumpini against Australian girl. I can't remember her name. Lisa something. Sorry, mispronouncing it. And she lost. Yeah, and then
yeah,
they had that horrible mixed rules, whatever it was, special rules fight with Zhang Jingnan. She lost. Circumstances there, some back of the head stuff, but yeah, I think to answer your overall question, yeah, I think they're going to the well too often with this special rules, mixed rules stuff. They were desperate to do Lineker versus Liam Harrison in
yeah.
Bangkok last month. Mixed rules. It was, or was that just Muay Thai?
I think at one point it was like mixed rules ish
Yeah.
or some kind of special rules, and then I think when it was announced, it was just announced as Muay Thai. But
Oh yeah, yeah. I was speaking to Liam. He said they offered it him 100 times, mixed rules, and he said, "I'm only fighting the bastard if it's Muay Thai or
yeah,
kickboxing, and we meet in the middle." So, uh, but then I think they tried to do a mixed rules thing with Lineker and Akimoto in Tokyo as well. After the Haggerty thing fell through, and Akimoto said, "I'm a kickboxer. I'm not an MMA fighter." So there is this, yeah, danger. You're just gonna overdo it on mixed rule stuff, and I think when you do it, it needs to be special. It needs to have a special occasion in one of the big arenas, and it needs to have two special fighters.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's kind of why what I was alluding to when I said about how it doesn't feel like this card particularly needs it. I don't know who's gonna go. Yeah, I like you said, interesting to hear you talk so much about Wonder Girl because that's one of the things that I think maybe gets lost in translation from the UK to you being actually out there. Is to me, I knew that she was a bit of a fan favorite, but not necessarily in terms of the numbers that she was drawing. So that at least makes sense that is why they would push for it to be on this card. But like you said, it does just feels a little bit like why
Yeah,
this?
she's a big draw, and I think they needed a co-main event, and I guess the mixed rules just gives it that flavor, right, for a co-main because they haven't got another title fight. So I think the danger is, yeah, if anything happens to Haggerty or Lobo, they need something they can slot in the main event and justify it as a main event. And
Right.
yeah, fingers crossed that didn't happen. But if it did, you could say, oh well, we got this special rules, mixed rules, right? If you just got, we got one to go against Cardoso in MMA for non-title, it's like that's not a main event, right?
Yeah. There's only a few fights left on the card that we haven't specifically mentioned. They're again kind of fights that all feel like if you watch the last event of 2023 or even the first event of this year, that they all kind of have a like a line that you can follow back to that because obviously you've got Liam Nolan on this card who fought at the last Fight Night event, and then Eddie Abasolo and Luke Lachey, which I think is like one of the fights I'm most looking forward to on this
Mm-hmm.
card, maybe outside of the main event. Really looking forward to that one. That should be a great fight. And I don't believe you've got Tom Poon is announced for this card as well. But that at the moment is all that we've got. And people who watch Friday fights will know that when that goes on the card, you got to tune in. So
Yeah.
that one will definitely be fun. So those are the only ones we haven't touched on really. 3 striking contests that are all really fun, all really good. As a UK fan, I'm excited to see Liam Nolan back out so soon. That's really good for him, and I think that they'll all be fun fights because as we've said with the Friday fights cards, they always deliver incredible highlights. So I don't think any of those fights will be any different. Like they will probably be 3 of the best ones to watch, as well as the Simon Petch fight that we already mentioned at the top.
Yeah, Liam, good to see Liam back, but I'm not excited for these fights Liam's having. I just
Mm,
think I'm sure it's not his fault. I'm sure he's willing to fight the big boys in that division. Lightweight, Muay Thai division. You got some big names there. You've got uh, Sinsamot, who's out of contract, but he's I think negotiating and has beaten Liam before. You've got Dmitry Menshikov, who has had a couple of big knockouts now after that strange defeat by Ersil on his debut. And then you've got Rungrawi Legatron is the man. Obviously, I'm quite I know the Sitsong Pinong boys quite well, so they have very high opinion of Rungrawi, and then there's Ersil as well. So that's so many big fights in that division, and then you've got your Musin Chaffee. He was knocked out by Menchikov. So I'm just I'm a little underwhelmed by some of the matchmaking for Liam, but then you flip it, and yeah, what were we talking about earlier? Promoting your stars like Haggerty in the UK, giving them winnable fights, and I think that's at play here. They're not going to match Liam with someone who's going to knock him out. So I understand it. Luke Leslie and Eddie Abasolo, great fight. Both guys bring it. That debut with Luke against Joe Natterwood was fantastic. Eddie's one of my kind of stealth, sly favorites. He's had some great fights in one, and he takes on the best, right? He fought Liam Nolan in Singapore. I was there for that. I think that was his debut. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And then he fought Sitachai in Muay Thai. Like, that's madness in Lumpini. And then he's knocked out Nicholas Larson as well, who's a former title challenger against Taiwan Chai. So Eddie Abasolo, yeah, great guy. And then Tong Poon, like you said, is always fine. If you watch Friday fights, you'll know him. And he did get knocked out by Ellis Barboza in December, but Ellis has since been suspended for drug test failure and banned for 6 months. So that was overturned, I think. So good for Tong Poon. But I do know people who don't rate Tong Poon as highly as maybe others do. And, you know, he has got a bit of a patchy record before he came to one. He's been knocked out a lot. And yeah, just look into it if you. He's fun, and he's definitely changed his style. And I think the 4-ounce glove suits his style. And he just comes forward, doesn't he? But I think in more traditional Muay Thai, he was not setting the world on fire. But good for him. He's found his niche. He's a character, good guy as well. I like him. What was the other fight you mentioned? Sorry, that's been announced.
We pretty much touched on everything.
Okay.
We spoke about the Simon Patch one in regards to the kind of recent run of fight nights and the kind of Lumpini ecosystem. So we
So
kind of
Semipet
spoke on that one.
and Rabbit, yeah? Eunice
Yeah,
Rabbit. Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
weird
So
one the first time around.
yeah, because what happened? They knocked him down, but kneed him on the way down, or
Yeah.
he was already on the ground, and he missed weight as well. So I spoke to Eunice last month or whatever, and he kind of defended himself. Like, yeah, well, look, I took that fight on not even a week's notice, and people are having a go at me for missing weight, but it's tough, and I agree. I think he'll be on weight this time. It's fine. Uh, he's a problem though. I think he's over with those boys at is it Venom he's with Medi, or is
I'm
he
not
at
sure.
yeah, I think so. I think he's with Medi. So um, yeah, those guys have got a lot of talent there, and they know how to. They have a lot of influence as well. Medi has influence, and he's patched it up with Chachi. He's going to be in Qatar. So yeah, that should be a good fight. I really like Semipet. He's an honest guy. I cannot believe he's 26 or yeah, he looks about 45 and
I never would
yeah.
have guessed that. Honestly, it's never like triggered in my brain before. That's crazy.
Yeah, look it up. I think he's 26 and there was a lot of memes going around on Thai Facebook, I think, laughing at his age and yeah, but he's a really cool dude and I think he takes a lot of fights. He's very active, and he's kind of just yeah. I'm not sure he'll ever crack the top echelon, and I think he's always going to be thereabouts in the top 5. So happy to see him back. So what is that? 6 fights announced?
Um,
Or,
how many have we got? 7. Yeah.
so you'd have expect at least one more. Um, this is what baffles me, man. They seem to be booking these cards about. They start booking them 4 weeks out or something, and you really need to. You want to have a settled card 2 months out, I think. but they don't seem to have that system at the moment to book that far in advance. And there's a lot of booking on the fly, and when things fall apart late on, they tend to throw these random matchups together. That is not, yeah, you cannot get away with that in the US. You know what I mean? I think obviously those US Fight Night cards are going to be planned a lot further in advance, but it seems to me when one has a numbered event or a big Lumpini quarterly thing on the horizon in the same month, the Fight Night card just seems to fall by the wayside in terms of the booking is secondary to the other show. And if I'm Amazon, I'm thinking, hang on a sec, I'm paying you for this stuff, and you're booking matches 3 days before the event sometimes, which was the case in November, I think. A couple of those fights were literally 3 days before Pet Gija and Lara Fernandez, and was it no Pet Gija and Celeste Hansen or something. They even were calling Shannon Wirchai. 3 days out, man, it's crazy for a big monthly show, especially when you only have that show, right?
Yeah.
In that month. So I hope one gets a bit more serious with the matchmaking on these things. But I also understand it's difficult to put on all these events with the Friday shows as well. And I think that for them is a learning curve. Yeah, it's been coming out of the pandemic and kind of being a bit more having to be a bit more, what's the word? You kind of improvise, on the spot. So kudos to them. They do sometimes really pull rabbits out of the hat with the matchmaking. Getting John Lineker to agree to fight Shinya on the spot, it's crazy. Yeah. But if I could have my word on that, Sage Northcutt, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? What did you think of that?
I feel like for a start, it's the kind of thing that if you had told me a few days beforehand, I would have said, yeah, that'll happen to Sage. Like if it's gonna happen to anybody, it'll be Sage. I my worry, the way I can understand it is if he loses, if he goes in there and he loses to Shinya and he obviously doesn't have his corner with him, that really sets him back. Like I know that he beat Mustafa last year, but I feel like losing to Shinya, who people were saying in the lead up to the fight, maybe this is his last fight and it's in Japan, it would make sense. And it's like to lose to Shinya in that moment, I feel like would be really difficult for him to build serious momentum again. Obviously, I know he's a big name and he's capable of pulling off some incredible finishes that would get him up there. But that was how I could justify him not doing it. It did feel like a must win to some degree. I know that Shinya, obviously, very, very credible opponent. And that was my worry is like, if he does get a hold of Sage, I know that Sage's grappling looked better than we've ever seen it when he fought Mujtaba last year, but I don't know how he copes with Shinya if the fight hits the ground. And I could understand it from that point of view, but also, like I said, it was so believable that it would happen to Sage. Like it's just like, oh, come on, man! Like how did these things keep on happening to this guy when we were so close?
Well, he's like you say, he's had a weird run in one championship, and he's not been active. And I thought, even if you don't have your corners, they can sit in the front row and they can shout at you from there during the fight.
Was that the issue? Was the issue just that they couldn't actually? I thought they couldn't get in the first place.
I mean, what stops you going in as a fan, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I thought that because they didn't have, because it was a problem with the work visa, right? Is that what the issue was?
But
I thought that they weren't, they physically couldn't get there was the issue, but I haven't looked into that. That was just presumption because, like you say, if they can shout from the front row, they might as well be in your corner.
Yeah, well, I think they could have gone into the arena, and shouted, and Tai Ruotolo was offering to corner Sage, and I feel bad for one, right? They've flown these guys out to Tokyo. They've had a whole team follow them around all week and look after their every need, and they've put a lot of money into promoting Sage, even though he's not really given them much return in the 3, 4 years, 5 years he's been with them. I think Sage should have just kind of stood up and said, "Right, I'm gonna do this for you guys, for the fans." I think he let a lot of people down. This is my personal opinion, and he let Shinya down. Look at John Lineker, man. Took the fight on 1 hour's notice from the stands. You want to talk about fighters fighting? John Lineker. You know, you look at. I point to this on social media as well. The main event, Superlek didn't have. He only had one of his corners because he recently got kicked out of Yokkao, and so did Fasai, one of his padmen. And yeah, so he came to Tokyo just with one guy, and then Sitachai had just been knocked out, but Sitachai came out with him, and so did Tristan, who is Sitsong Pinong managing director. And Superlek asked them, "Yeah, come with me. I want you guys there with me. The ties, we stick together." And I thought that was just indicative of the difference in attitudes of Superlek, is like, and Sitachai, those guys, like, we're going to war. We're going to go and keep this crown, defend this belt in enemy territory. Sage is like, yeah, you know what? I don't feel like it today. Sorry to the 12,000 people here who've paid tickets and the pay-per-view, and yeah, can't have my corner. I don't blame him, because I think it was one's fault that it wasn't made clear about the work visa thing. I don't know. I've heard different stories, but he should have fought, I think. Yeah, and now I just think Shinya is never gonna take that fight again. It's already it's already fallen apart before. So I think Sage. If I'm Sage, if I'm one, I just probably give up on Sage right now. I think I know they want to push him big in America, but I just don't see him as that star that they think he is. In terms of, yes, marketability, but that only gets you so far. Like we're talking about with Wonder Girl, if you can't actually win fights at the highest level, what's it worth that you're this kind of male model or whatever, or TikTok, Instagram hit machine? It's just, I'm not even sure if Sage Northcutt does that. I mean, he was very popular with everyone in Japan, and fans were taking pictures and stuff, but I don't know. Do you think would you push Sage Northcutt as one of your marquee stars if you're running this promotion?
It's a difficult one, because I think that there is some sense of name value there. For example, outside of covering one for Sportskeeda, I do cover like general MMA news, and Chael Sonnen did a video about this whole Sage Northcutt thing, which, he probably wouldn't do a video for the majority of the people on the roster, right? Like, Sage has still got a little bit of name value, but then I'm also like, for people who don't stay up to date with the constant ongoings of one championship, do they just say, "Oh, when did Sage last fight? Oh, he got a submission win when he came back after 4 years." And it's like, at this point, like you said, it's like, is it a little bit diminishing returns where he's not really giving them the value that they seem to be giving him, if that makes sense? Because I feel like people see headlines of Sage Northcutt but don't necessarily know what he's doing. Like they don't see him fight at the end of the day. Like that's that's the simple truth of it. He has had 2 fights in 6 years with one now. 5 years, something like that.
Like 5 years, and his UFC run was, I want to say, like 2017.
It feels like a totally different time, like in the UFC, in MMA as a whole, when Sage was on that run. Like, to think about him being in the UFC now.
Kong at that point,
Really?
I was still living in the UK, so it was like 2016, I think.
Yeah.
That just shows, yeah. And he's still so young though, which is,
Yeah.
but I just think, yeah, what are you doing? Just fight. And now we're gonna wait. They'll probably put him on that Denver card. What is that, September?
Yeah.
Shinya's not gonna fight him. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's disappointing for me, but
Yeah.
nothing. I do like Sage. He's a really nice guy, and I'm intrigued to just see what level he's at now, because he's had this time off to sharpen up, and I really wanted to see how he looked against Shinya, but yeah, unfortunate. I shouldn't go too hard on him, perhaps, because you're stepping in the ring at the end of the day, where your life's on the line, and you probably don't want to go in without every condition being perfect, but it can't always be, right? It can't always be perfect in this industry. The amount of times we talk about Lumpini where fights are booked, yeah, like 3 days before and stuff. But this is why I like Lumpini and Friday Fights. It's just so raw, and people just go
Mm.
and throw down, and it's like there's none of this. Oh, I can only fight if every single thing is perfect. It's like, no, this is like my life's on the line. So is like, can I feed my family? It's just got that raw energy to it. Of, is it opportunity? Can I go and take it? Like guys like Tong Poon have, and
Yeah.
all these guys who win contracts like uh, Alif and Yu Yapui, shout out to Hong Kong, and Rambolek, and Pet Jija. Look at her now; she's kickboxing champion, and she's probably going to be the Muay Thai champion quite soon next year. So, yeah, I prefer to see these people fight instead of fight once every 4 years. Yeah, Sexan, what does he fight? 8 times last year. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is outrageous. That will do it for the fight night preview. Nic, I gotta say so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Anytime, yeah.
To go over an hour, I could easily sit and talk to you about one championship all day. So,
I love
we
doing
gotta
it.
end it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me. Anytime you want, I love doing it, and I don't really. My podcast is kind of on the. We don't have a home for it really at the moment, so I might be starting it up on Sportskeeda, but it's just, yeah, I miss this. I love chatting. Anytime you want to do it, and then we should get you on my one, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I just love talking about this stuff with anyone, especially with people who know what they're
Yeah.
talking about. So let's go.
All right.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here, and I'll be in Bangkok, so tune in to Sportskeeda's coverage if you're watching this throughout fight week. Yeah, we're gonna have interviews. We're gonna have features. I'm gonna write some features. I'll be all over Sportskeeda's socials. The name is there, Nic Atkin one. Follow me if you don't already, and check out Kyle's. What's your channel? I'm sure that everyone's seen it already, but where can they all find you, and what have you got coming up?
I always just tell people to follow me on Twitter or X, which I will put in the description because I
You got to
do
get your
so.
name in here.
Yeah, I usually do. But I do so many different things here and there that it's just I post everything I do on there, so it keeps it simple. You stay up to date with what I'm doing on there. So that's the easiest place, because like this channel is pretty much purely one championship, but then
Okay.
I do a bunch of different stuff for a bunch of other different channels. So it's like, even across the same subjects, like it's yeah, because like I mean, just one championship alone, right? This channel, it's mostly one championship. But if you want to catch my writing with one championship, you can go to Sportskeeda. If you want to catch my one championship interviews, you can go to Violent Money TV. So even if you just want to stay up to date with my coverage of one championship, there's 3 different places. So it's easier just to follow me on social media and see
There you
what I'm
go.
doing.
Yeah. Well, tag me in this thing, whatever. I'll retweet whatever. Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah, and I'll check out your channel. I haven't seen it before. I mean, I'm eager to see what you're serving up.
Thank
What
you. Like I said,
delicious content.
I should put way more time and effort into it, but
That's difficult, you know, especially when
yeah.
you have a few different things going on. I know how it is. Yeah.